Hey guys, it's Alejandro Kolleeny with another literary classic in 3 minutes. This week I'm doing Catcher in the Rye. Okay, so Holden Caulfield is a 16-year-old who's just been expelled from a very prestigious boarding school for not applying himself. Holden doesn't think he's necessarily smarter than everyone. He just thinks that everyone else is horribly phony. They're unforgivably phony. His roommates Ackley and Stradlater are phony. Ackley's annoying. Stradlater's a narcissist. One night, Stradlater goes out on a date with a girl who Holden turns out to know and apparently has feelings for because the whole time they're out on the date, he's back at home worried. He stays up late into the night until Stradlater gets back. And the coolest thing about this book is that the characters talk almost but not quite the way we talk today. So at this point in time, the phrase giving the time is a euphemism for having sex. And Holden's like, did you give her the time? Stradlater's like, maybe I gave her the time, maybe I didn't. Holden's like, you didn't give her the time. And he attacks Stradlater, but Stradlater's actually an athlete, so he just kicks the shit out of Holden. Holden decides he's going to go back to New York, but he's not going to go home to his parents' house. He's going to use some money he saved to stay in hotels for a few nights. So he tells everyone in his dorm to fuck off, and he gets on a late-night train, and he spends the ride ambiguously hitting on this older woman. In fact, he spends much of his time in New York trying to give the time to older women, asking cab drivers to get drinks with him, and asking people where the ducks in the Central Park lake go when the lake freezes over in the winter. So on his first night back in New York, he gets back to his hotel, and the elevator operator offers him the company of a prostitute, which he accepts without thinking and then immediately regrets. The prostitute comes to his room, and he's very nervous and uncomfortable. Finally, he pays her and just asks her to leave. She reappears at his door moments later with the elevator operator who asks for another $5, and Holden says no and calls the guy a bunch of names, so the guy kicks the shit out of Holden and takes the $5. And that's the saddest thing about this book, is that a near constant stream of humiliating and painful shit happens to Holden Caulfield, and then he has to just pick himself up every time and continue dragging himself through the story. So now it's the morning, and he calls his ex-girlfriend, makes a date with her, and they go out, and he's thinking about how awful and phony everything is, and finally he snaps and tells her that the world is bullshit, suggests that they run away together, and she goes, Holden, I like the world. And then he calls her a pain in the ass, which in the 1940s is the worst thing you could call a girl. It's like the C word. So now he's alienated like everyone he knows. He calls this guy from his school who he doesn't even like, and the two of them meet up together and have a shitty drink, and then Holden sits there getting blind drunk, just thinking about how miserable he is. He finally decides that he wants to talk to his kid's sister, Phoebe. So he essentially sneaks into his own house in the middle of the night and wakes up his 9-year-old sister and like bothers her. And she realizes he's been expelled and she's mad at him, but he eventually earns her forgiveness, and then they dance for a little while, and then he leaves. He calls his old English teacher, Mr. Antolini, who's like one of those hip, cool English teachers who seems like he's your friend. Mr. Antolini says he can come over and stay the night. So he comes over, and he and Antolini have this really intense conversation in which Antolini drops all this really real shit about life and how to find your way in a world that you have contempt for, and it really seems like he's going to be the moral center of the book, you know? And then Holden goes to sleep, and he wakes up, and Antolini is sitting there stroking his head, and it's like, come on, book, give me something to hold on to. In a book where the only characters are chattering assholes or miserable teenagers, the one guy who says anything that makes the slightest amount of sense is portrayed as maybe a pedophile. It's like, come on, book. So Holden runs out, and now he's walking through New York. He's so depressed, and she's going to run away. The last person he needs to say goodbye to is his sister, Phoebe. So he finds her on her lunch hour at school, and he tells her he's going to run away, and she essentially cries until he agrees not to run away. And then she skips her second half of school and goes to Central Park with him and rides a carousel. And I know it kind of sounds like the book ends on this like anticlimactic fart note, but if you actually read it, it's really poignant. So this has been a literary classic in 3 minutes. I'm Alejandro Kolleeny.